Mr. Chairman, we Indian people have been through hell and back, but we have always taken it on the chin, silently, and we didn't even shed tears. We only shed tears when we were alone, Brad. And I can admit myself that I have cried many times over what has happened to people. On this reservation, too. I've been in this battle for a long, long time. I freed men out of the Martin jail, went in the Martin jail and got evidence of men being chained in the Martin jail, and women being raped in jail, and all this kind of stuff when there was no such word as militant and activist. If that's the word, I guess I'm an old-timer. Because I've done a lot of things, including accusing this state of discrimination and proving it. Bobby Kennedy said something that's stuck in my brain for ever since. He said, if you Indian people want freedom, he said, you're going to have to remember that you're going to have to fight for it every day, because there are those who are willing to fight against freedom and take it away from you. And especially, he said, this does apply to Indians. And I think this is more true than ever. I'm going to make an alternate motion, but before I do, I want to make an announcement. There is several organizations in this country, Indian organizations, moving in directions that are all the same. Webster Tuhawk made a speech the other day. I was really surprised at him. The release said it used the word aim 4 times. And he said the aim of all Indian people, including the militants, is all the same. He said only there are those of us who would like to use the normal, who would like all Indians to use the normal channels. If we use Tuhawk and Wilson's normal channels, we wouldn't even have elections. We'd be like Russia. There'd only be one name there. But the announcement I have to make is that we have been formulating a new organization that any Indian organization can join, or any individual can join. And some papers went out yesterday that were handed into the White House called the American Indian Crusade. And this is for all Indians. And we're calling a National Assembly of American Indians in Washington, D.C. for 3 solid weeks, beginning the week of September 10th. And we're going to try to educate Congress and the offices of the United States government, including the State Department if necessary, that we are human beings. And we want such books as the immigration book, Mr. Patterson, to have the words of Indian savages who didn't know what to do with this land removed from those federal printed books. We're going to try to do an education job, and we're going in very, very softly, and we're going to try to do business the way business should be conducted. But if we are provoked, there's going to be somewhere around 5,000 Indians in that town camped for the most part. We want to go to Arlington, and like we wanted to do with the Trail of Broken Treaties, we're going to do all of these things we wanted to do. And if we're provoked, then the government will have to stand for whatever happens. Because we're going there as an educational trip. For Congress mainly, but for the administration as well. We are trying to get across the message that it is time for a change. You know, everybody's got to change shoes once in a while because they wear out. And our Indian moccasins wear out once in a while too. And the Indian Reorganization Act wore out a long time ago. But they keep going on, and they keep putting a patch on here and there and here and there. And now we're bumping all over the place. And even we're bumping into each other, and we're killing each other. Mr. Patterson, I'd like to address myself to this too. I'm born and raised an Indian. Had to hunt for a living when I was a kid, by the way. And I mean that. I shot cottontails for a living ever since I was 9 years old. So I wouldn't be dependent on that food. But also, there's some very vital and important questions that have never, ever arisen
until very recently, and they've only emerged out of the submerged mess that we've got. I say that because in the Bureau of Indian Affairs there is more little Watergate cover-ups than you can possibly even begin to think about. I mean it.
That's right.
Seriously. On the Pine Ridge Reservation alone, in the agency, and I don't live here, by the way, but I keep track of people. I could start on right now and talk to you for 2 days about the corruption that exists right in the Bureau of Indian Affairs at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And every bit of it could be confirmed tomorrow or the next day by fact, by your own records in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I could do the same at Rosebud and Standing Rock and all the rest of the reservations too. And the same way goes for the tribal councils. The corruption and graft that exists is fantastic. And the reason it exists is because of some very vital things that I think a presidential commission must look into as far as treaties is concerned. And those 2 things are these. On top of what Mr. Reuben was talking about, the human effect of treaties that has never been given consideration, there is mineral rights. I have yet to see a treaty that has any mention of mineral rights. I have yet to see a treaty that has any mention of water rights. And yet, when you do business in your real estate transactions in the white world, when you buy a piece of land, you take it for granted that unless there's nothing in there, something mentioned specifically reserving mineral rights or water rights or whatever, that automatically goes with it. We too took it for granted that the water and mineral rights went with our land. The treaties of the 68 and 25 and 51 and all the rest of them. And of course we know what the last agreement was. The 1877 agreement was an effort to lease, or at least the old men thought that you were leasing the Black Hills, when in fact they were actually ceding it. But anyway, those 2 things are going to emerge in the next 5, maybe a year even, the next 5 and 10 years, as 2 of the most colossal fields of lawsuits that there is in this nation. Because water, as you know, is becoming very vital, and as you know, we got an energy crisis. And by the way, if our oil companies want to, they could come and make a good deal with the Indian tribes, I mean the people, digging a few of these wells up that's already been tapped. We know there's oil out here, all over this place. We know that. In fact, recorded. Rosebud, Pine Ridge, we got coal. Cheyenne River's got coal running out of their ears. And we don't want you to ruin our land, so we keep you off. Anyway, those 2 things. The other thing is this. The very fact that the treaties were entered into, and each one of them almost provides for a jurisdictional procedure in there, even though it says bad men and bad Indians. The intent of that language is stuff. And so we know the kind of operation that you can have. I could do the same thing if I was a commissioner, or if I was sitting in your spot, or the secretary's spot, or the solicitor's spot. I could deny anything and everything an Indian wants. But I also know this, that you can bend and amend and make new policies that will allow Indians to do anything they want. And that's what we're here for today. Of America, or this commission, would like to have a sample feeling of what the tribes of the Sioux Nation feel like on what between the 2 subject matters, the tribal government and the treaty government as we used to know it, traditional government, or whatever you want to call it, our traditional way of living or whatever. That's the question. My motion was very simple, that we have a referendum vote if the president wants to have a test of the feelings of the people in the Sioux Nation, to have a referendum vote of all the tribes to see where they stand, see how they would vote between the 2 opposing forces, the present 1934 Indian Reorganization Act government, tribal council business,
or our old traditional government. Yes, this would be the 8 nations, if they want to vote in a test of the wind in a sampling of the country. Of course, if they had this kind of vote in Pueblo, it isn't necessary. You know, they were allowed to keep their government, and some of the others were allowed to keep their government, but most of us have had our government disintegrated by the 34 Act. And up until that time, our chiefs and headmen were recognized, and we'd like to go back to that system. That's the question now. I think all of you better go over here someplace and wake up again. Let's take a walk or something. I think they got all mixed up here.